this week is the biggest week in comic book stores. Now, what's happening this week is Free Comic Book Day. And I'm going to give you a companion, a guide to what you need to make sure you pick up on Free Comic Book Day. Stick with me. All right, let's start with a quick primer on what Free Comic Book Day is. This is a day that takes place on the first Saturday in May. This year it's May the 3rd, and it is the Black Friday of comic shops. Every comic shop participates. You can go to freecomicbookday.com and look up all the different stores that are on there. But if you see a comic shop, they have to be a pretty sad shop not to be a part of Free Comic Book Day. Now, what happens is there is a set of comics that come out that are meant to be free. Not all comics are free, but there are some comics that are free. And there are specific releases for Free Comic Book Day from each of the major publishers. And what you'll be able to do is walk into a store, there'll be a display, and you'll see right inside that shop, you'll see some display just like this with Free Comic Book Day at the top. Those are free. There's generally some rules about this. You can take 1 or 2, or in our shop, 5 free comics at any given point. And you pick up those comics, and typically if you buy some things, you maybe get some more free ones. That's always fair game. By the way, if you happen to not live near Hurst, Texas, where we are, you can still shop with us online, and we will pack in some Free Comic Book Day books with whatever your order is. Now, what I want to do is walk through the comics that you can expect to see. There are some unique new stories coming out this year that I think are interesting, and then some really interesting, kind of fun comics that you normally wouldn't pick up, you might not normally read. The one that just comes to mind for me is the team up that I never thought I needed, which is the Thundercats and the Powerpuff Girls. That is the comic that's coming out. And if there's ever a time to try to read Thundercats with Powerpuff Girls, it is when it's free. So check that out. That's going to be one of the great ones to check out. Let me run through the books that are coming out. I'm going to start with the ones that I'm most interested in, that I think are the most impactful. And the first one in this case is the DC All-In 2025 Special Edition, #1. That is this comic right here. This book is a brand new story in the All-In series. And specifically, this actually gives a little bit of insight into what's going to happen and how these two universes, the Absolute Universe and the Prime Universe, how those might come together and how we might see some crossover, maybe an incursion of some sort between the two universes. There's a character that's been introduced in just a flash. In a way, you see them on a small panel and you're like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder who that might be. Well, that character seems to be able to cross between the worlds. And we want to take a look at what's happening there. And they introduce that here in the All-In Special. Gives you a good overview of what's been happening with the Absolute Superman, Absolute Batman, Absolute Wonder Woman comics as well. If you've not been reading those, I don't know where you've been, what rock you've been under, but you absolutely need to go pick those up. And in the meantime, this free book that they offer is going to be excellent. The flip side is a brand new Superman comic. Now, just know that Superman is a big deal this summer. It's called the Summer of Superman with DC for a reason. We've got this great big movie coming out. There's a brand new #1 Superman book, and they're giving you sort of a sneak preview of that new #1 book in this Superman Unlimited special edition that's coming out. I'm really excited about this thing. And both stories were good. I've read them both, and they're both really impactful in the worlds that they inhabit. So DC is bringing the heat this year for Free Comic Book Day. Make sure you pick up those books. The second one that is interesting to me is that Marvel is doing something very similar. Now, Marvel's Ultimate Universe is very similar to DC's Absolute Universe. In fact, I probably should have said the opposite, because the Ultimate Universe came first, where it's a universe that's very similar, except some evil, dastardly person has interfered with the powers of our heroes. So Spider-Man didn't get his powers until he's in his 30s, and he's got kids, and he's married to Mary Jane, and he's got a job, but he's just now becoming Spider-Man in the Ultimate Universe. And there's a bunch of things like that, things that are different than they are in their main Marvel universe. Well, the very first time that we see a crossover from this ultimate universe into the main universe. The sort of big bad of that universe comes in, and he says to Miles Morales, who is also from Ultimate Marvel originally, and Miles crossed over into the main universe. He goes to Miles and says, "We're the only two left. We should both go back home and make an alliance." And Miles is like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm good hanging out right here." Well, the story here picks up right there, where you see what happens with Miles right after that discussion, and you see sort of a lead in to what's going to be their big story of the year, which is Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion. So there's going to be an incursion between the Ultimate Worlds, and Ultimate Spider-Man is where the story picks up and carries on from there. There's also some other good stories. You get a good feel for Amazing Spider-Man. It's a brand new Amazing Spider-Man story. He has a little bit of a new battle and he gets distracted from his daily life. Brought to you by the Amazing Spider-Man artist and writer. There's a brand new #1. We're on issue #2 of that run. And if you've been wondering if this is a good jumping on point for Spider-Man, you can read this, get a feel for the status quo, and it is a great book for you. And I will hold it up one more time. That is the free one that you can get on Free Comic Book Day. Absolutely worth your while, worth your time. All right, let me run through a few others that I think are good, starting with Image's Energon Universe special. This actually picks up right after this week's issue of G.I. Joe. So G.I. Joe, I believe it's #6, ends, and it's almost like you're flipping the page and the next panel picks up in this Energon Universe special, and it's going to tell sort of what the crossover is like between Transformers and G.I. Joe and some other things that are happening in the Energon universe. I think that's absolutely worth reading. There's a Fantastic Four movie coming out, and there's a Fantastic Four X-Men book from Marvel that's out as well. I like when they put out some Free Comic Book Day stuff and new versions of the comics along with a movie. We're seeing them do that with Superman. We're seeing them do that with Fantastic Four. I can't believe it's taken this long for these guys to figure this out. I'm so happy that they did, and I'm very excited for people to get a look at that. X-Men, we're seeing something interesting there. It's X-Men plus Ms. Marvel. They're starting to work Ms. Marvel into the X universe in a bunch of different ways, and I wonder why. I wonder what's happened and why that's the case. Another one that is a big hit right now, Power Rangers. So Power Rangers VR and the Power Rangers Prime. It's two halves of the same book. Both of those teams live in the same universe, and you get to see what the current status quo is for both of them. That is worth some time to read. There's a Star Wars book being released by Marvel as well, and you can see what the update is on where Star Wars is. I like the classic Phantom. Mad Cave Studios is publishing a new Phantom book, so you can see Phantom #0 right here on Free Comic Book Day. There's a number of additional Marvel and DC young readers versions. So they have the green band. If you wonder, there are different bands on these comics. So there's a green band and a blue band and a red band. The red banded comics are grown-ups only. Green band is all ages, and blue band is, we're accustomed to seeing sort of PG-13 is what I'll call it. It's made for readers that are in middle school, high school, that sort of thing. Some other big names. Gargoyles has a book. There's a Hulk all ages book that comes out. Diablo has a red band book that you can check out. You can see Diablo and what's happening in a comic about Diablo, which is very interesting. Godzilla has a book. Godzilla New Heroes from IDW is coming out. Of course, we have lots of fans of Critical Role. So Critical Role Black Hammer is coming out as a book for us. And a number of other things. I Hate Fairyland. There's a Conan book. So Conan the Barbarian has a book coming out. There's a Minecraft manga comic that you can check out as well. Speed Racer from Mad Cave Studios. So Speed Racer #0. And of course, the aforementioned Thundercats and Powerpuff Girls combo. Why would you ever miss such a thing? What a joy that I'm sure that's going to be to read. So that's one that I'm going to pick up. That's the sort of surprise hit. Hopefully we'll see how that works. If you're old school, you like some old school comics, Archie, there's an Archie's comic in here for you as well. Young Jedi Adventures and a number of other things. So I encourage you, come out and see us. We're at the Multiverse in Hurst, Texas. If you can't make it out to the Multiverse in Hurst, Texas, that is okay. Instead, just order from us online. We will pack in some free comic book day comics for you as well. And all the more reading enjoyment for everybody. I hope to see you this week. But between now and then, keep reading comics.